trailer under the shade structure and pay the ejidatario that resided in that area small amounts of money just to leave their stuff on the land, which eventually led to wanting to own it. And the problems arose when those foreigners tried to buy portions of this land where the fishermen or the fisherman's family that had been dwelling on this portion of the land for who knows how many decades said, yeah, okay, I'll take some money and you can have this land. But then the farmer in the valley or the family living up in the mountains got wind of the fact that the coastal dwellers were selling off portions of their ejido, and that turned into an argument amongst the ejidatarios, which eventually brings the government or law enforcement in and turns into a big publicized nightmare. Is that somewhat accurate?
Yeah, I don't think that's too far of an extrapolation. I think that's the one level up from I was super, kind of general. But yeah, you're right in line. I don't disagree.
So the process now, the way I understand it, is an ejido can collectively decide they will subdivide and privatize the land, which then they can sell. So just because land was once part of an ejido doesn't mean that it cannot be chopped up into smaller pieces and sold. But if you are interested in an area that was once an ejido, making sure that the land has actually been privatized and is not still part of the ejido is the key first step to that. And that's where, again, knowing the chain of title and understanding the laws and making sure you're engaged with real estate attorneys that understand and know all of these things. So that's a real gray area for a lot of foreigners. And I know still to this day, people are uncomfortable with the concept of buying and or trying to buy land down there. And I own property as a foreigner and also as a Mexican citizen. I probably ought to consolidate them all under my Mexican citizenship. But as somebody who's lived in the country and understands the basics of it, I don't. You need to be wary of as you would anywhere. The United States is just the same. You got to be careful when you're buying land to make sure there's no liens on it and so on. So just as a recommendation from both of us, there is not undue reason to be fearful of trying to buy land in Mexico. You just need to do your due diligence, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, know who you're dealing with, know that they have a track record, know that they're obviously reputable, that they have the standing that they purport to have.
Sure.
And again, make sure that, you can track the history of a property and assure the clean title, because even though, I have seen in certain cases where there's a documented path of titling for a property and it gets contested. Okay. And it can be contested because somebody has a financial, view on it. And they have a buddy that's a judge or whatever. And hey, they come up with a piece of paper that says, hey, this, I have this piece of paper. So, you really got to be diligent. And I think that's what's one thing about, Pete's Camp and the history. And I think the reason why, we stand out amongst, everybody on the North Beach. That particular property has only been deeded twice in its history. Once, the first time by the government to my dad's Uncle Pete, okay? And the second time when his Uncle Pete sold him the property when he was done and he wanted to enjoy the last years of his life.
Sure.
So the good old American dream is what made it possible for my father to go back and do that when he decided to retire from General Telephone and cash out and take his hard-earned cash from dabbling a little bit in real estate in the States, and decided he wanted to go back home. So that's the nickel tour of how Pete's Camp came into my family.
I love hearing it. So listen, we've gone over our 30 minutes, and I don't want to take up much more of your time, but I have two more topics that I real quickly want to touch on. Sure. The first one is just in general, safety in Baja, safety in Mexico. I know that it ends up on the news from time to time. I have still have a ton of friends that live in southern Baja. Actually, I have friends that live up and down the entire peninsula. There have actually, as recent as here, not a couple days ago, some squabbles going on in San Felipe.
Yeah.
Can you share just a little bit about what's going on and give us an idea of the current status down there in San Felipe and either encourage and help people feel safe or give us a warning if they're need. I mean, we don't need to be beat around the bush here. This is a podcast for people that are interested in and or love Baja, and every place has its good and bad things. But tell us a little bit about what's currently going on down there, and if we need to be extremely concerned, or if it's just kind of one of those things that we need to be aware of and move on.
Well, first of all, I'm going to stay away from the political. Okay.
Good choice.
But I will tell you my feeling. Okay. You reap what you sow. Okay. And that's from the tourist perspective. Okay. And the next step I'll take is I'm going to rip a line, another Mama Espinosa type line from a gentleman that we both know and I think we respect for what he does and what he represents. Okay. And that's Cameron Steele. And he said it the best. Okay. Be right with Baja and Baja will be right with you. Okay. So if you go down there, you're respectful, you're in your lane, you're not doing anything that you shouldn't be doing, you're not going to find trouble. Okay. And that's, I think, my general feeling about all of the nonsense. Okay. Whether you talk about the geopolitical situation in the port town, you talk about what's happening with the president of the United States. Listen, the place is majestic. It is everything that we think it is. Stay away from the crap and it will be fine. Okay. And that's my only takeaway. And the one thing I will tell you is that it's not any of what's happening right now in the port of San Felipe is a localized issue. Okay. People need to work. People need to eat. That's a call to local government to find some jobs for folks. At the end of the day, it's a fishing town. Okay. People need to fish, to eat, to work. When they don't have things to do, then they turn to other things, right?
Well, survival. Yeah.
It's survival mode. So, so 2 comments. Okay. Sport fishing is one thing. Okay. I know we need to protect the environment, but at the end of the day, I don't think so much it's the local folks that are creating the problem for the environment. I think it's offshore foreign entities that are coming in and creating the damage in the ecosystem, in the environment. So there needs to be some management there. Okay. And it's going to take some work. I don't think this is really targeting tourist travelers. And again, be wary of what you read in the press. The press has their own agenda. So that's my statement. I don't know if I finished it out, but if I start talking too much, I may go down a tangent I don't want to go down.
Yeah, Rafael, I think that any listener can understand that there are, there's you start getting into politics and we start polarizing, and that's definitely not what I want to do here. I think that the thing to take away from this is that there are multiple places, regions, locations in the United States and anywhere else in the world that you need to be aware of and even situations or current events. There are times and places where it's wise to steer clear, and times and places where it doesn't matter. So I think that that's a fair description of what's going on, and I don't think. I mean, I'm headed there next week. I'm headed to San Felipe. I know I'm going to see you there, and there's not 1 ounce of me that is concerned about being in that town. So, hey, let's shift gears here and go on to the last topic, and it's a much lighter topic, and hopefully we didn't get too dark with that one, but I thought it was pertinent that we at least brought it up. We ask every one of our guests on the podcast, and this you'll get this here in a second. It's a very, very important question, and I want you to think about it before you answer quickly. Best taco in Baja, where is it?
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot with a bunch of friends, and maybe even my mom.
Well, I think I know what your answer should be then at this point. I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, I think I know what your answer better be.
Yeah, my mom kills it with the potato tacos, man. You know, I'm getting older in age now, Ryan, and most of us got to be thinking about how much red meat we consume, right? So the potato tacos at Pete's Camp are awesome.
Well, there you have it, listeners. We've heard about tacos in Ensenada, tacos in Southern Baja, tacos in Tijuana. I'll tell you mine, and I've shared this a couple times now, and I want to start getting some free tacos there because I'm plugging them all the time. And I'm assuming you know where it's at, but maybe you don't. It's at the top of La Rumorosa grade in the beautiful town of La Rumorosa, and it's called Lalo's Tacos, and they have tacos al vapor that are amazing.
Oh yeah. All right, I'm gonna have to stop in there next time I go that way. And
yeah.
And next week you better come by, and I'll get you set up with some of those potato tacos that I'm talking about, so you can start plugging our place.
Right on. I'm gonna hold you to it, man.
All right, you're on to date.
Okay, hey Rafael, thank you for the time today. And again, if people are interested in learning more about Pete's Camp, can you give us an idea of how they can find out about Pete's Camp or make reservations and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. www.petescamp.com. And if you're into racing, on Instagram and Facebook, Pete's Camp Racing.
Perfect. You know how I know you're old? You said www. You don't have to say that anymore.
Okay. All right. There you go.
It's good talking to you. And again, This was the Baja Sessions, part of the Answer is Yes podcast. Tune in next week. We'll have another interesting person on the show. Thanks for listening.